Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 10.
Yes, so we apologize for episode 9. That was a bit of a mess. We had a whole episode filmed, and then when we were editing, we realized a good majority didn't have any sound, and it was just
A cluster.
it was pretty devastating. We were pretty upset about that. Anyway, so we put out what we had to get some content because it had been a couple days, so we didn't want to leave anybody hanging. But today, I just put in an order for all the parts, all the brake parts for the whale, and quite a few things, pretty comprehensive. And then so we'll get all that, but we won't get it till Friday. In tonight's episode, we'll probably pull out the steering column. I'm going to check out the steering box and see what the problem is, because we got so much play in there. I tried adjusting, and the adjuster did move, but it's still just terrible. So rebuilt boxes for those, generally speaking, are just like a reseal kit. They're still gonna have a lot of slop. So even at that, I did a little bit of research on those, and the ones you see, like even Summit had them. They were $350 just for a reman US, but they had no stock. And so who knows how long that's going to take. I looked Firm Feel out of Washington State. They are quite popular with doing. They do a box for this. You can get 1, 2, or 3 stage. We're just going to research what their stages are and see, which level we want to go. I mean, it's not a race car, of course, so I'm not sure if Shauna will want the light steering or something a little firmer. I believe the ratio stays the same unless you go with the upgraded pitman arm. So, I mean, that could be an option too, but I doubt it they make it for this. So today we'll investigate the steering box. We'll probably get that out. I'm going to pull off the rear rubber brake line from the axle. I am curious. We had one of the viewers, Norm, suggested it could be deteriorated inside, and that's causing a blockage. So it's got me kind of wondering about that. We ordered a new one, so it's got to come off anyway, so we'll probably take that off today and have a look to see if that's the case. But I decided to order all 3 new hoses, 2 for the front, 1 for the back, all 4 wheel cylinders, a brand new master, and all the spring hardware kits. I mean, they're cheap anyway, and I'm there, so why not? And also, I don't know if anybody noticed on the last video, none of the wheels have the automatic adjusters in them, and I'm not sure, if 64 had that or not, but the kit was like $6 or something. It was, per wheel, or $8 per wheel. So I ordered 4 of those, and we'll put the automatic adjusters on, and then we'll keep the little lady and do having brakes.
And good steering.
Okay, time to start wrenching this out. So there's 2 bolts here, and there's a coupler at the box, so it should be pretty easy. The nice thing about these early steering columns is there's no key, there's no wiring. There'd be probably a horn wire, but otherwise they're pretty simple. There's not much to them. One down. Two. Probably have to do this one of the steering box now. Have a look and find some wrenches. Okay, so this is a 2-person job, so it's tripod time. There's a collar just poking through the firewall. I guess it's to the coupler to the steering box. So Shauna's going to blast it with the gun, and I'm going to hold the wrench on the other end here.
Is this thing going to fall down after?
It might, but it's not going to hurt or nothing, but give it a rip there.
Okay.
Shouldn't be that tight. Okay, you're just spinning on there.
I might not have been on there proper.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll try again.
Yeah. Okay, that felt like it. Keep going if you can.
Oh.
Can you do it again?
Yep.
Okay. I've got the nuts, so we know that was a success.
Yep.
So I've never dealt with this kind of column before, the way it splines on here. I'm used to the later style coupler. But we got everything unbolted, so I think I just got to pull. So we'll see here. Maybe it's time for a pry bar.
Do you want me to see if it's hung up on something?
It's probably just a tight spline there. So the old whale does not want to cooperate. We've got the collar unbolted. We're trying to pry it or wedge it out, and it just doesn't want to come. And there seems to be a rubber boot there. Like I say, I'm not familiar with how these things go together, these early cars. So I'm going to lift the hoist up, and we're going to take disconnect the pitman arm and the 3 bolts to mount the steering box to the frame, and see if it'll give us more wiggle slash pry room to get that puppy out of there. So I had one of the viewers message me saying the steering box, will adjust better once it's running and stuff like that. But the problem with that is no accessibility. Like if the engine was here, boy, this would be a bear to get out, I would think. But I mean, the fact that the engine's not here, this is, piece of cake. It's so wide open here. Number 1's off just like that. So, oh, and one other thing I noticed, it's got some funky tapered washer here. I feel like a special tapered washer. It fits into the concave part of the thing. I was just looking here. You see the pitman arm coming off the steering box, and we got a cotter pin that's not even folded over, and it's barely in there. Look at that, it's not even folded or nothing. So whenever you get these old cars, it's best not just to jump in them and go. You should check these things out, because, and I'm not saying this nut's going to come off, but I mean, that's just an example of you don't know what you have without going through it.
I don't want any part of that business.
That reminds me, a year and a half ago, I bought a 69 Barracuda race car, fastback, and that'll be coming up on future episodes, and of course I'll be doing lots of drag racing with it, so we'll be filming that too. But anyway, I bought it from a buddy of mine down at the coast near Vancouver, and he had bought it. He had never tested or drove it, and he took it down to the track, and he said it scared him, and he's an experienced drag racer. And then he, and it was for sale then, so he asked me if I wanted to buy it, and I was looking at it, and he goes, "Here, take it for a burn." And I said, no, I want to go through it first. And sure enough, both inner and outer tie rod ends, the idler arm and the pitman arm were all loose, and it was just going down the track steering like this. And it scared the crap out of him. And I'm glad I didn't. I've never, hop into a car and go 120 miles an hour without going through it myself. So anyway, I've been racing it a season and a half ever since then, and it's been a lot of fun. And there is some upcoming changes to that car. Like I say, you haven't seen it yet, but I've got some upgrades for more horsepower, and it currently runs in the 11.0 range for quarter mile at 120, 121. And I've got some new heads and stuff going on it, so I'm hoping for mid-10s anyway. So that's coming up too.
Was it not on one of the previous episodes we put? You had a couple of racing blips there.
Not for the Barracuda.
Oh, that was
Mad Max.
Mad Max. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, first thing is the nut for the pitman arm, which was not really that tight. And then we're going to get a pickle fork in the hammer. I'm certain it's going to be a tapered fit. Luckily there's no rubber boot to destroy. This is usually what these things are good for. There we go. That one gave up easy. So I'm going to undo another bolt, and then I'm going to lower the car down so I can get inside the engine bay, because this might be a little hard to hold over my head. So. Okay, so I'm just getting this box ready to come out. We got the return hose. It's petrified, so I'm just going to cut it off because we'll be replacing that anyway. And yesterday when we were messing around, I pulled this master cylinder off and opened it up and cleaned it inside, and it was full of gunk, just like that wheel cylinder was. Anyway, we got it all clean and stuff, and I'm sure it would function fine because the bore was pretty good. We gave it a quick hone and all that, but anyway, in trying to get it off, the stupid nuts, I used a line wrench on it, nothing. I even put a vice grip on it, and it just rounds right off. I mean, it's seized, and I sprayed it a couple times with WD. So I had to undo this line down at the bottom at the junction box for the brakes. So that'll be something I'll have to fabricate when we put the new master on. Just typical old car stuff. A little harder when I get it coming through this way. The hoist makes life easy. So now the box is just hanging there on that bolt. Oh, stuff dumping everywhere. Okay, so the box is loose. I've got shims and washers and all kinds of stuff falling here. Sure hope I know how to put it back in. Okay,
I'm sure
so
somebody, one of our viewers, can give us a hand.
Okay, so the box is through here. Now I'm just wondering if there's another way of manhandling this to get it apart. We did a brief Google on how to do it, but Shauna didn't find nothing. Anyway, I think at this point we'll cut and I'll get Shauna to pull on the steering wheel. Okay, I was determined not to let the whale beat us. It's beating us up, but it's not going to beat us. So I phoned a buddy who's very knowledgeable, and he happened to have a service manual for one of these. And I did, in fact, just order a service manual this afternoon with my parts order. Anyway, he was saying these columns don't come apart like a conventional column like the later cars do, or the B-body series, this being the C-body. He says you've got to, basically the whole column gets dismantled to get it apart. So I've got to turn this off, and we've got some screws in there, and then we got to undo this nut, and then we got to use a puller to get the steering wheel off, and then probably got to undo the signal lever here, and then there's a snap ring under there as well, and then we tap on the main shaft while pulling on the outer column cover here, and then once you've got all that slid off, then it'll be more apparent. There's, I think, a roll pin or something in there, and some plastic sleeves or various things, but I'm thinking I have to pull it apart to get to those, and then I think the rest of it will become apparent of what has to happen. So that is what we're going to accomplish now. Okay, the puller's set up on here, and we'll see if we can get it apart without destroying it, because that wouldn't be good. Usually these go pretty easy. That was pretty easy. So we got the signal guts in here. So we'll pull all that apart. We'll pull this here signal arm out because this whole collar's got to come up. And there should be a snap ring on this shaft down here. And then we'll put the nut back on here. As per the service manual, we'll tap on here while pulling on this, and hopefully it'll want to come apart. But so far, she's being stubborn. Okay, so you've seen where we pulled the wheel off, and then there was all kinds of screws and bolts in here, and there was a metal snap ring where the shaft came through to hold all this on. And so once we get all this off, and then we put the nut back on there, and I give it whacks with the hammer, pulling on this outer collar while I'm whacking down on the shaft, and finally it just gave way. So this is it here. You know, pretty basic really, but if you don't know what you're doing and never dealt with it before, it makes it a little more interesting. And then there's a big rubber boot that seals the column to the inside of the firewall, just as basically a weather guard. It bolts on like this, and then of course the column comes through. It's not the best, but I highly doubt they're reproduced, so we might just have to fix that up or whatever. And
swap meet find. Maybe.
Swap meet find, yeah. And then, well, there's another collar here. Well, this is the one we unbolted earlier. This wasn't out. It just sort of sandwiched the outer housing around the thing there. Now, I think what we'll do here now is we're going to lift the steering box out the other way, and then we can see how this shaft attaches. That'll be the easiest. Okay, so we got this thing out of the beast. Totally, like I say, I've got no experience with these, and this was totally learning experience. I did phone a buddy, and he read from the service manual. I ordered one today, but it hasn't shown up yet, so it won't be here till Friday. Anyway, he read off what had to happen, and once you know what to do, it's actually pretty straightforward, as you would think. So this is the way later Chrysler steering boxes has a steering coupler here where the shaft comes in, and then there's like a couple little shoes and a pin and stuff. This is a totally different setup. You see, here's the column here, and you can see that has, and then there's seems to be some kind of a rubber plastic isolator or something, but you can see how loose that is. So I mean, that's going to give you play right there. But I think the biggest problem is still the box. That's all play in the box. You know, if I hold it here, that's all play in the box right there. And so, I mean, with 100,000 miles and 60 years old, you got to kind of expect something like this. Now, this is also an older style box. Here, I'm going to get this out first, and then I'll turn the box sideways. There we go. Now, this should just slide out. And I did notice they do sell this piece, this little coupler rubber thing. This one's just shredded. So I'm going to need one of those anyway, because, you know, this is, you can't use that. That's just, here we go.
It's obliterated.
Yeah, it's obliterated. But they do sell that panel, and looks like a couple little shims or something in there. Or that's just part of it. Anyway, that's pretty done.
Wow.
But you'll notice a different style of box where it comes out of the steering column here, and then it goes way down and, of course, mounts there. Totally different style than 65. They use these from, I believe, 56 to 64, and then in 65 they went to the conventional steering box, which we're used to in our later model cars. So I've never dealt with these before, but anyway, like I said earlier, Firm Feel does remanufacture these. They give you a stock stage 1, which is like a police type Firm Feel, and then they got stage 2 and stage 3. Stage 3 probably more of a sporty autocross type thing, not what Shauna's into. So I'll talk to them and see what they recommend. It'll, you know, Shauna will probably appreciate the really light steering, you know, because she's getting up there in age. Anyway,
Still younger than you.
yeah. Anyway, so this is it. This is how we'll wrap this up. This took a lot longer than I expected, but you know, I was thinking the old box or old columns where you just unplug some wires, a few bolts, and the whole thing comes out. But this one you actually disassemble. But in the end, you know, not a huge deal. One interesting thing, when I took this here, this bolts right to the front subframe of the car. There was some wedge shims that fit under here, and my buddy was saying, and there was a little one up here, and this one was quite a big one. And basically, he said that was for aligning the box with the steering column. So it'll probably take a little bit of fiddling around, but I'll have the service manual by then, so I'll be able to look at the procedure. But anyway, you shim the box, and that aligns it with the column to go straight up. I got to think with a bolt-on subframe, their tolerance is probably not 100% accurate. There's going to be a little give, so there's got to be adjustments. So that's what this is. And I'd stated earlier in the video that I thought it needed a pitman arm, but as you can see, the pitman arm in this is just a piece of metal. There's no wearing part on that. The part that I thought I saw movement on, and I will double check again, was the center link. There's a link here that goes to the passenger side of the car, and it had like a ball joint type end which went through here. And so if that's worn out, then that entire center link, and I got to think they'd sell those. I mean, it's probably pretty common to a lot of different models of the C-body range for quite a few years. So I haven't looked it up, but if I need one, I'm sure I can source one somewhere. But I know even Rock Auto sells that. So that's just like a little plastic coupler, but this one's pretty chewed. I believe that's supposed to be all filled in there. This is just worn right down. So this is probably 1960 Chrysler vintage, or 64. And it's done its time, but that's going to the trash bin. But I won't, and I would imagine these were attached at some point. I won't throw nothing away until I get the new stuff, so even if I just need it for reference. So
thanks for watching episode 10.
And we will see you for episode 11, hopefully tomorrow.
Have a good evening.